Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand. Welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Sunday, May 7th, 3:15 p.m. Eastern, 2023. Nothing matters so much that we should throw ourselves into a state of panic about it. No happening is so important that we should let ourselves be exiled from inner peace and mental calm for its sake. Paul Brunton. Learning how to reduce stress is the golden key to manifesting abundance in our lives. We are living a stress-free lifestyle. We have extra energy, creativity, and a fun feeling that anything is possible. We take the time to create the things we really want to do, have, and become in our lives. Each time we allow ourselves to become stressed out about not having enough time, money, or energy, we shrink and feel less capable of manifesting our dream. When we can create a healthier relationship with whatever we feel is stressful, we discover a new energetic source inside. Our real creativity opens the very moment we let go of the thing we assumed was going to be a toxic drain we had to cope with. Our real creativity opens the very moment we let go of the thing we assumed was going to be a toxic drain we had to cope with. So what is it that you find is stressful in your life? Is there a certain task, job, or person who constantly makes you anxious and filled with fear? One of the most interesting things about stress is that it is a psychological dis-ease, which can be instantly shifted by changing the belief system in the mind. For example, if you have an intolerant boss who is constantly pushing you to be more productive, the intense energy could serve to motivate you or may create an extra tension. It all depends on your relationship with your boss. By consciously approaching your boss with compassion, understanding the true emotional pain they are battling with inside, the stressful pressure is suddenly removed from you. It also dissipates from your boss as well. Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible. Frank Zappa. When you take a closer look at what stress actually is and how it is created, what do you notice? Many of us will blame the outer world, saying that this person, event, time, agenda, or situation is causing us to feel stressed out and is the real problem. Yet, honestly, is this blaming approach really empowering us to be stress-free? Whenever we point the finger outside ourselves, we are missing the grand opportunity to grab hold of our inner steering wheel and direct it towards manifesting a life that we love. The choice is always there to be responsible or irresponsible about the stressful situation we are dealing with. We always have the option to say this situation is too much, beyond our control, and can let it go. We also can take the path of seeing it as something that can be easily shifted with a little more time, love, and patience. Ultimately, in the end, what matters is how we feel about ourselves inside. Whenever we take full ownership of where we are creating our own inner tension, we awaken our most empowered self and discover the greatest gift of being perpetually free from stress inside. A stress-free lifestyle is easily created by prioritizing trust, patience, and appreciation above everything else. This approach is based in knowing we are connected with everyone and everything in a deep synchronicity, enveloped in the most impeccable cosmic timing one could imagine. This sweet, stress-free approach to this life contains a natural spiritual acceptance that a higher intelligence is taking care of us. We know we don't have to be the general manager of the universe and always have to keep our eyes on the road ahead. From here, a profound feeling of abundance can enter. We can rest into this deep acceptance and appreciation that all is well, right here, right now. The very moment we release the white-knuckled grip we didn't know we had on our life steering wheel, a miracle happens. We tend to relax and know that everything in this life is going to work out for the highest good. We enter each conversation knowing our lives are this natural, amazing expression of this trust. The reaction we take comes from a place of not being attached to the outcome, yet curious as to how it may unfold. We start to live a life that is without suffering, and this contagiously spreads around to everyone that we know. With a little practice, you can easily reduce any level of stress by adopting a healthy daily routine that helps you harness the power behind the wild horses of the mind. There's a few practical things you can do immediately reduce the stress in your life this week. Start your day with some form of exercise. Do it first thing in the morning for at least 20 minutes or until you break a sweat. This means engaging in some physical movement you love doing that feels good to your body. If you don't love it, it is creating a negative stress and impacting you in a psychological, harmful way. After you break a good sweat, then do some yoga stretching your body and relaxing into your heart. Feel the presence of your own sweet, soft, surrendered presence inside, and sit for at least 15 minutes, just watching the breath rise and fall. Repeat the words, all is well, or some mantra that makes you feel good inside. Listen to life, nature, or the sound of existence. Spend as much time outside all week as you possibly can. The secret to finding true freedom from stress comes from meditation. By consistently meditating for at least 15 to 45 minutes every day, we can instantly release lifetimes of stress by simply making a daily habit of creating a silent space to be quiet, alone, and at ease. It shifts something deep inside us. Meditation gives you the gift of observing your thoughts and allowing them to pass over you like clouds. Once you can become detached from your thoughts, seeing that you have the choice to entertain one or not, you discover a greater peace and freedom inside. You realize you are the sky in which the clouds are passing through. The process of learning to sit quietly in deep meditation can feel as challenging as climbing Mount Everest. The mind is always wanting to get involved and participate in some way. Yet meditation is a state of allowing, having no effort, and being in total surrender. You may find that the mind is efforting to allow your thoughts to just exist without getting attached to them. Any efforting at all will engage the mind and stop the blissful state of experience from occurring. Meditation is the greatest single thing you can practice to create a stress-free existence. By simply watching the mind, surrendering to what is, not having any agenda, and being aware of that which is already highly aware of itself, very miraculous things will occur. By simply watching the mind, surrendering to what is, not having any agenda, being aware of that which is already highly aware of itself, very miraculous things will occur. God is there only if you surrender. Surrender makes anything God. Surrender gives you the eyes, and everything that is brought to these eyes becomes divine. Osho. Another powerful thing to practice is being aware of when you're generating positive or negative stress. All positive stress comes from joy and excitement, and the latter from fear. Both types of stress are 100% created from your attitude towards the outer world, which can be changed by shifting your mindset. One child who sees a garden snake may run away screaming, while another will stop to curiously investigate it. When we understand that any stressful outer event is not the actual cause of our pain, yet is always created by our mind's interpretation of the event, then we can take our power back and turn a negatively stressful event into a positive encounter. The more we understand the cause of our anxiety or tension and how and why we created it, we can then recalibrate our mind to develop a new approach and attitude about the situation. It is vital to be aware of the power of negative stress in our lives, and is something to be dealt with and not ignored. It is the killer of every dream, goal, and fantastic adventure. It's vital to be aware of the power of negative stress in our lives, and is something to be dealt with and not ignored. It is the killer of every dream, goal, and fantastic adventure. This hard, heavy stress is very serious about life and is the underlying cause behind every dis-ease known to mankind. It is what creates the emotional tension, destroys marriages, creates feelings of poverty, and is what blocks us from truly healing ourselves on every level. All negative stress is created from a deeper resistance to life. When we are not fully accepting what is, this is what initiates the cause of our pain. When we judge that a certain person is not good for us, we create a wall of resistance around them in our mind. Yet ultimately, where does this wall show up? It is actually felt inside ourselves, protecting our own heart from getting hurt. If this inner wall is not removed at some point, the consistent tension can produce painful emotional symptoms or even a physical illness down the road. The person who lives a life filled with negative stress often functions like a horse with blinders. No matter what occurs, they continue walking straight ahead, thinking they have no choice where they're looking and not able to see the beautiful planet they're actually living on. These blinders are caused by very narrowed or fixed ideas about who we are, what will bring happiness, where in this life we are going. This type of mindset is unable to stop and smell the flowers along the way. The mind cannot open to the unknown and misses out on the abundance of love, creativity, and possibility that this universe is penetrating us with every direction. The person who knows how to deal positively with stressful situations has developed the habit of seeing all 360 degrees of this life. They can see their judgment as it arises, welcoming the apparent source of negativity. and then look for some positive outcome to come out of it. They don't make any assumptions that any event or person is good or bad. They simply step back and witness the mind if it creates a label or judgment. This allowing approach is perhaps the most enlightened approach to dealing with stress that is available. The allowing approach gives space to the negative experience to be there, yet does not give it any more energy. The person can continuously be in love with this life, often to each new moment, and thinking positively about what life is giving them. This is the most powerful manifesting mindset to adopt, as the mind tends to exponentially expand in positive feelings and energy, thus increasing the ability to attract an abundance of positive things in this world. Those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. Friedrich Nietzsche. Those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. The greatest secret to helping someone step through a negative, stressful pattern is showing them how to stop being attached to the story inside the mind. When a person could step back from their mind and see it as if they were watching a movie, viewing their reality from a more distant vantage point, they could realize that it's all happening inside the mind. These people tended to have much less reaction to any future stressful or painful movie scenes. Another technique is simply noticing the source of the fear that is underneath it all. What is the voice of the anxiety saying? Who is running the show? Practice listening to what this negative voice is saying inside. Yet don't buy into the emotional negativity. Have compassion for this voice. Hear the minute details of their story. Yet practice listening for what it is that this challenging, hurt voice really wants to experience. You may find the negative voice inside of you is the key that unlocks the door to the deepest healing you've ever had in your life. Don't rely on the mind for liberation. Just have faith and act on it, Nisargadatta. Total freedom from stress happens as a byproduct of a relaxed, open mind. Most of us would agree how easy it is to become stressed around an overly demanding, impatient person who also has complainaholic tendencies. Yet, what if they are a teacher training you in the Mastery of Life program, or how to abide firmly in the positive manifesting mindset? What if they are the spirit guide who is testing you, showing you how to set a healthy boundary with toxic people? Instead of being a doormat who ignores taking care of yourself, sure, you may not want to be socially rude by walking away the moment they start sharing all their complaints and dramas, yet if you don't take of you, who will? When will be the right time to take care of your heart's needs? When we develop a greater sensitive responsibility to ourselves, we are choosing to care for the deepest inner need for our heart. This is the need to be met with love. Coming from this place, we are stepping onto the path of freedom and creating a stress-free lifestyle. By devoting ourselves to taking care of our heart and stepping away from any draining situation or relationship you are engaging in, you can instantly feel empowered and free again. What's amazing is that the stress you once felt with that person or situation can morph to become the most enormous feeling of liberation inside. You are then able to fully perceive the vastness of this universe, feeling a true sense of divine relaxation all throughout your body. We have this propensity, and I don't believe any of us are exempt from it, to stress. In fact, most of us, if not all of us, are stressing all the time. But it's like anything else. When you become acclimated to stress, it kind of sits in the background. You don't realize you're stressed. Even on an easy peasy day, you could carry stress. Even when you think you're totally relaxed. And usually the stress is from within. We talk a lot about in these meditations of stepping outside the mind. And a lot of people are kind of, what the heck does that mean? It means leave the mind alone. And there's only really one way to do that, and that is focus on the breath, rising and falling. That's the beginning step. This is where you step through the door. And then you understand that each moment, which is the now, is like the space between heartbeats. That quick. And when we're in the now, we leave the mind behind because we're not thinking. And our ego mind is not there. The ego mind is in yesterday or tomorrow, always has been, always will be, ever, beyond, and forever. But people always ask, well, how do you leave the mind alone and stop thinking? Focus on the breath and move into the now. And you don't have to do, gasping deep breaths and huge exhales. It's just your normal breathing pattern, and you focus on it. And it removes you from yesterday or tomorrow. It removes you from the mind chatter that we all experience, the noise. You figure that 60,000 plus thoughts are expanding every day with every one of us. And just about all of them are not yours. And when you're in the now, you can send out a thought. You can send out a thought that you want something in detail. You can send it to the universe without interruption. And by stepping outside of the mind, you have no friction. You don't stand in your own way. You heard that term. Get out of your own way if you want things to happen. So we become almost fearful of the mind. And when you start to realize that, when you start stepping out more and more away from the mind, leaving it alone, not participating in it, it will begin to realize that you are the master of the mind. When you really understand that, it means that you're letting go. You're not fighting life. Now, how scary is it when you say to somebody who has like a a disease like cancer. And you say to them, don't fight it, surrender to it. Scares the living holy crap out of people. They believe that if they surrender to it, that they'll pass, that they'll have to leave the body. And it's actually the opposite. Surrender to it and walk through it. Watch what happens. Surrender to it and walk through it with deep eternal love, gratitude, gentleness, kindness, generosity, and humbleness. It's when we don't, with ourselves, we don't talk with our fears. We don't talk with them. We don't talk with our stresses. You know, in a gentle way, to determine why they're there. Why, you know, why are you here? What's your purpose? And then you begin to realize, I'm only here in this body temporarily. Why would I concentrate so much on generating stress when I could be generating happy, joyous, wonderful feelings? That's a no-brainer, you would think, right? It's a no-brainer to say, well, then I'm going to swim in stress, right? And like a lot of people do, and be miserable. Not like my life. Fight my life. Fight the life that you have, that body affords in the physical material world. What would it be like? And you do this with yourself. You ask yourself, what would it be like? Even, you know, when you're in a, stressful situation, and you switch gears and you say, let's look at something. If I were not to be in this body, I would not be able to feel, touch, embrace. I would not be able to love. I would not be able to kiss and hold and hug. I would not be able to eat wonderful foods. I would not be able to laugh or cry. I would not be able to see anything. I would not have any emotions anywhere in the physical material world. You imagine what that would be like? Since we take everything that we're in these bodies for granted, most of us take them for granted. Most of us spend most of our time ridiculing our bodies, being dissatisfied with them, angry, upset, carrying that with us throughout life. Most of us don't embrace our body exactly as it is. We don't love it. We always have things that we're disappointed with it. And you check that because that's pretty prevalent on this planet. Most of us cannot look in the mirror and say that we love ourselves exactly as we are in that moment. Many of us can't even look at ourselves because we're so upset about how we think we look. This is all stress. It's stress-related. That's generated from dissatisfaction, disharmony, lack of peace, gentleness, kindness, generosity, and humbleness. These are all connected. But imagine that you couldn't smile or any of the things we do in these bodies. Of which most are taken for granted. It's like someone with no feet, right, would do anything to have feet. You have feet, yet you're not happy with those feet. You're not happy with how they look. Something, right? Someone could have no arms. Yet you have arms that you take for granted. It's an interesting statement that we use in this life, that you don't know what you have until you don't have it anymore. And we're talking about these bodies. It's like you have eyesight for most of your life and all of a sudden it's gone. Now, of course, you can remember what things look like because you saw them, but then you lose your eyesight. And you don't have your eyesight anymore. Boy, do you really reflect on all the years you took it for granted. These are things that, when we talk about being in the deepest, deepest, deepest of eternal gratitude, this is all connected. It really is. Even when you're miffed or irritated, you immediately switch to what you're deeply grateful for. And it counteracts the low frequency energy that floods you, and then it literally dispels it. So it is. It's like dispelling low frequencies without being angry, frustrated, or anything. You just shift and say, what am I completely, deeply, eternally grateful for in this very moment? And then you go into silent mode. You don't need to speak. You don't need to communicate. You don't need to do anything. There's no justification. And see, every one of us have that. We have that power. But we become so distracted with the physical material and so unattracted to our spiritual. Most of us on this planet spend most of our time in the physical material, very little spiritual. And you check this with yourself, most of us should be totally in the spiritual, which then affords us to be very grateful for these bodies and the lives that we're living, no matter what they may be. When you desire to transcend something, the transcendence is what? You are looking at the life that you want to live. Not the life that you have. You're very grateful for that life. But you're saying, this is the life I want to live. In deep gratitude, and gentleness, kindness, generosity, and humbleness with myself. And then what happens is that energy floods everybody else. Now, you may come across someone who's just genuinely miserable inside, generally unhappy inside, and that's with them, not you. Now, it may pour over onto you, but it is not you. Okay? It's their conflict within. And a lot of people take it with them right from the point when they leave the body. They don't make peace with it. They don't surrender. They don't let go. So those avenues, and you experience it. Could be you. Could be someone else. But what you experience is that it's always there, isn't it? That uneasy feeling within, it's always there, waiting to pounce on you. You can always tell when you walk up with someone and you know that they are not at peace. They do not live in peace. They are conflicted. Picture yourself running, right? You have a choice. You're running and there's trees on both sides of the path, and you're running. And the more you're running, the more you're looking ahead, because you look to the right or the left or behind you, you could stumble, which can happen and has happened, and fall. So a lot of people believe that if they keep running in the same direction, straight ahead, that the things that they carry won't bother them. They won't be confronted with them because they're so hurried and they're running so fast in one direction, they feel like they're running away from it and leaving it behind, when in actuality, it is always with them. Now, when you take a slow, nonchalant walk, and you can look at the trees and everything around you, which is at ease. Most people are not at ease. They're very conflicted. Most of them hide it very well. But as time goes by, it begins to expand. And it expands more and more. And it gets to the point where they can't ignore it. And everything they get around dissipates, leaves them. And they can't figure it out. Why is that? Then they become self-persecuting. They persecute themselves and go down heavy on themselves, which then adds more disrupted energy, which then they carry more of. Now, you could look at a person on the outside and never know that this conflict is going on. Never, ever. But it is. All of us have conflicts. It's not like I'm singling out any one of us. We all have conflicts within that is up to us to sit down with and walk through it. Most of us take it and put it in a closet, like our subconscious mind, and we keep it there. We just keep adding more stuff, because then that motivates more stuff to come in, more stuff to come in. And then eventually that closet is so full that the door won't shut. And then eventually it spills out all over. And then you face it, but some people just keep ignoring it. The conflict is not with anyone around you. The conflict is you. And because of how we've been programmed and trained in this life, every life, to believe more in the physical than the spiritual, and not really knowing how. No one told us how, ever. When you were a young child, did your parents tell you about any of this? You didn't know. None of us knew. Or we were thrusted into religious beliefs that we couldn't figure out head nor tail of. And it's just like, following the piper off the cliff, the Pied Piper. And the story, everybody knows the story of the Pied Piper, and then started playing, and all the rats followed him out of the town. Townspeople wanted him to come in and use his flute to get the rats out of their town. And this is what he did for a living. So we become mesmerized by things around us. Our material wants and needs sometimes overwhelm us. Our anger is actually always with us. It comes from us. It comes from things that we look at, and because we're in the ego mind, we have that response to it, rather than just looking at it and blowing it off because it's insignificant. Have you ever been around people that seem like they don't care about anything? They're just footloose, fancy-free. Just walk along, and they don't engage in any type of friction, any type of battle with other people. They just kind of skim by it. Say no, they're not interested in engaging in it because it's superfluous. It lowers the vibrational frequency, and sometimes so much so that one will commit dangerous approach to another, which is murder. The infuriation. Or it's like a woman or man walking in on their loved one who is committing adultery, infidelity, and they get just totally lose any form of composure. And now you understand that you can look at that as, okay, so that's done and over. You move on. You walk away. And you say to yourself, you face that, whatever it may be, but you face it and you walk through it. You don't walk through it immediately because you have conversation with it. Why you're so upset? Well, the obvious thing is that you were emotionally hurt. And unfortunately, many of us don't make peace with that. We carry it with us. And so as we carry it with us, we end up destroying relationships unbeknownst to us along the way. And everybody we come in contact with ends up parting. But we don't know why. And then we come down on ourselves because we say to ourselves, well, it must be me. And we come down hard on ourselves, which then adds to more of it. And we build it up. And we reflect on it through this life. Rather than sitting down with all of these fears, concerns, and hurts, and once and for all surrendering and walking through them. It's like you've heard the adage or the saying, not every steak's a bad steak, okay? So you might have a steak or you eat something that really, really doesn't do well for you. And for some reason you remember that for years and years and years. So it's a psychological conditioning that says you're not going to ever have a steak again because the one that you did have that time made you deathly ill. So it's conditioning. And you believe that throughout life. And you never have a steak again. Because that thought, those emotions, that experience in the subconscious mind plays back. What if I get another bad steak? What if I get deathly sick again? And a lot of us have experienced that with many different things. But see, these are all experiences, and if we looked at them as experiences, we wouldn't let them hold us down and hold us back, cause us to become super cautious, looking over our shoulder, worrying about this and that. What if this happens again? What am I going to do? It's like someone who gets married 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And they don't understand the cycle, so they start going, why is it that every time I get married, it ends up as a split, a parting? And they don't know why. They think it's the other person or all the people that they engaged with. But there's a pattern that they aren't addressing with themselves. And see, for us to be ourselves genuinely, we're always in that risk. All of us are. We're always in the risk. It's why it's part of an experience. We experience these things and we keep moving on. You know, we face them, we discuss them with ourselves, and we let them go. Some hang longer, but eventually they fade and they're gone. And see, we don't pay much attention to ourselves at all. We don't. It's like someone says to you, why don't it'd be a good idea, why don't you just go out in nature and kind of hang there? Look, I don't have time for that. You don't? No. I got to go to work and I don't have time for all these mantras in the morning and all this stuff that you suggest I do. I just don't have the time. So where's all your time? Out there. And we convince ourselves and we run from it. Okay? We run from ourselves. We spend most of our lives running away from ourselves rather than coming into ourselves. It's not a negative. It's not some doom and gloom scenario. It's just how we operate and what we believe. And it sounds, for a lot of people, it's uncomfortable when you say, hug yourself. Hug yourself. You can hug yourself. You can take your arms and wrap them around yourself. Nurture yourself. You are number one. You're number one. It's all about you. See, and it's just, well, people go, that's really selfish and inward. No, that they're getting that confused with the bad selfishness. And the good selfishness is that you're it. You're the one. You're the one to love deeply and eternally. You're the one that's in deep, deep, deep eternal gratitude. It's about you. And once you get all of that, then imagine what happens in your interaction with others. It is super accelerated at much higher frequencies because you know you. Most of us don't get to know ourselves. How are we going to know anybody else? We're not. We may think so, say, but we're not going to get to know anybody else until we know ourselves, without judgment on ourselves, without being hard and disrespectful to ourselves. But being loving and understanding with ourselves and nurturing is a whole different ballgame. Being gentle, kind, generous, and humble with ourselves at all times. Even when you get infuriated and you turn around and say, I'm not going to stay here. What can I be deeply grateful for in this very moment? And then it fades and it disappears. So we're in this, it is all, and this is the truth. And I think it vibrates with all of us in these meditations. It's all up to us. It's it. It's not up to anybody outside of us, anything. It's up to us. It's up to us deciding. Each one of us deciding for ourselves. You know how sometimes you'll pass the buck, right? You'll say, oh, I'll do that. I'll do that later, right? And then you don't do it. And I'll do that later. And then you don't do it. And then it kind of starts to irritate you. And you look at it and you say, I'm going to do that. And you don't do it. And then you start to feel guilty, which is crazy. It's the ego mind. And you go, oh, God, I better get that done. I got to do it. But at that point, you just despise doing it. But you do it. Instead of going, I'm deeply grateful I have the ability to do it. So you get it done. And there's a lot of things that we don't like doing. We pass them off or we'll shove them aside or maybe try to get someone else to do them, right? But that's because we're not in gratitude. It just depends on how we view ourselves with ourselves. You ask yourself deeply, looking at yourself smack dab in the mirror, can you genuinely, from your heart of hearts, say to yourself that you love you deeply and eternally? And you love the God that you are behind those eyes that are staring back at you. It's all about you. Always has been, always will be on this endless journey that we're all on. I'll join you in meditation, and I'll return to close us out. Take an easy and slow breath out, in from the nose. Take an easy and slow breath out from the mouth. Remain still. For today, explore the perfection of duality. Notice there is both darkness and light within every person, thing, place, and experience. Get out a pen and paper, write down all of your biggest judgments and negative beliefs you have about other people. Then write down the opposite, positive aspect of each belief. Notice what happens when you see the divine balance within each negativity in your life. Explore and feel this divine balance within yourself today. What would your life be like if you only saw a divinely balanced, perfect state in everyone and everything? Remember, this universe is completely balanced, perfect, and divine. The negative judgments created from the mind that make your world appear to be anything but that. Acknowledge the perfect balance that exists in life and recognize this each time you judge yourself or someone else today. Take this with you for the rest of the day into the evening and night and the following morning. We will return here Monday, May 8th, 2023, 3:15 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call.